Hello everyone, this is Group 4, and today we are starting a journey into epistemology. I'm YUKUN, and I'll guide you through part 1, the basic and the core issues of epistemology. I think about this when you say, I know the sunrise in the east, do you truly know it, or is it just repeating what you've seen? Epistemology, the study of knowledge, asks, what is knowledge? How do we get it? Where does it end? Let's dive into the world of wisdom. And what is epistemology? Epistemology is like a quality checker for knowledge. It asks three big questions. The first one is, how is knowledge made? From senses or logic? And second is, what makes knowledge true? And third is, are there limits to what we can know? For example, Onto said, knowledge is a justified true belief, but in 1963, Gettier showed that even if you believe it's true and prove it might just be luck. Defining knowledge is harder than we think. Epistemology focuses on four key areas, and this question connect like a puzzle. What is knowledge? How do we test it? Is there an end of knowing? This is epistemology's greatest challenge. And here are epistemology's biggest debates. We often think that we know a lot, but we rarely count as knowledge. Some say it needs total certainty, while others challenge that idea. Then there's the question of how we know. Science says what can be proved wrong, while religion holds on to belief, so which gets us closer to the truth. And even our toes, senses and logic aren't flawless. Optical illusions and paradox remind us both can fail. Maybe Socrates was right. Wisdom begins when we admit we don't know, and that might be where real understanding starts.
For the second part, I'd like to introduce two important traditions in the theory of knowledge: rationalism and empiricism. These are two different ways of understanding how we know what we know. Let's take a closer look. Rationalism says that true knowledge comes from reason and logical thinking. Rationalists believe that some ideas are innate, meaning we are born with them. They trust the mind more than senses. For example, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am, showing that thinking itself is the foundation of truth. Empiricism is the opposite view. Empiricist says that we learn through experience, what we see, hear, and feel. According to John Locke, our mind is a blank slate, and all ideas come from experience. Hume also emphasized observation and experiment as the main way to build knowledge. At the extreme, radical empiricists say knowledge comes only from the senses. On the other hand, radical rationalists say knowledge comes only from reason. But today, most thinkers agree that both are important. Reason helps us think clearly, and experience helps us connect with the real world. Next part.
Today, I want to talk about two interesting ways of thinking about knowledge: skepticism and revelation. Skepticism is the idea that we should question how certain we are about what we know. It takes very important questions. How do we really know for sure? Skeptics believe that we should not accept everything as true without careful thought. They challenge the way we think about truth and knowledge, saying that we may be wrong about things we take for granted. On the other way, revelation is the belief that some knowledge comes from a higher spiritual or supernatural source. This means that some truths are given to us through religion or other divine means. These truths are seen as beyond that we can understand with just our own mind or through science. Now let's talk about intuition and local genius. Intuition is when you understand something without thinking about it too much. It's that feeling inside you that tells you something is true, even if you don't explain why. Local genius is the knowledge that comes from local people, their cultures, and their experience. This kind of knowledge doesn't always need to be provided by science, but it is still important. These ways of knowing is often seen as non-rational, meaning they don't rely the hand of cause or proof. However, they can be just as important as scientific knowledge, especially in understanding human experience and local participants.
In part 4, I begin with correspondence theory. Its central idea is that truth is a consistency between proposition and objective reality. For example, the apple is on the table, then you go to the table to see if there really is an apple. If the proposition is true, advantage is simplicity and intuition, well used in fields such as science and law. Then there is coherence theory. The central idea is that a proposition is consistent true if it's consistent with one's belief system. For example, 1 + 1 = 2 in math is true because of the consistency of the whole mathematical system. Then advantage is that it's suitable for reasoning and construction within complex system.
There are three main ideas we can look at. First, the correspondence theory says something is true if it matches the factors, but sometimes we only assume the factors, we don't really see them. Although language is limited, even each factor really we may not describe them clearly, so truth can get lost. Second, pragmatics say something is true if it works, but there is a risk. For example, if someone takes a sugar pill and feel better, it helps, but it is not really medicine useful. It's not also true. Third, the coherence issue is this idea is true if it fits well with what we already believe. That sounds good, but even a fair retell can be a constant that doesn't make it true. So being logical doesn't mean being really. In the end, each theory works better in different areas. In science, we use factors correspondence. In ethics, we want to believe to fit coherence. In daily life, we want to reject pragmatism. So maybe the best question is not which theory is right, but which one help us make best right now. Thank you, everyone. Terima kasih.
The triadic interaction among philosophy, tradition, and science. Knowledge isn't built from just one dimension, it emerges through the interaction of various systems. Philosophy offers deep reflection on the nature of knowledge. Science focuses on empirical validation, and tradition carries the wisdom accumulated through generations. These three aren't isolated, they overlap and interact in many areas, forming a more complete and integrated understanding of the world. Philosophy meets science, the tension between speculation and empirical research. Philosophy is often seen as speculative. It relies on reason, logic, and critical thinking to explore fundamental questions like the nature of existence and knowledge. In contrast, science is empirical, grounded in observation, experimental, and reducibility. Although they use different methods, they are not in conflict. In fact, science is built on philosophical foundation. Questions like what is knowledge or what counts as proof come from philosophy. Together, they support and research each other in the pursuit of the truth. The modern value of traditional knowledge. For a long time, traditional knowledge has viewed as unscientific or outdated. However, in recent years, it has gained renewed appreciation, especially in areas like medicine, agriculture, and ecology. Local wisdom, what we call local genius, is often based on long-term observation and practical experience, making it highly sustainable. By combining traditional knowledge with modern science, we can discover new solutions to challenges that science alone has not yet fully resolved.